This is Victor Jordan. He's a candidate for the 45th District City Council seat. Victor, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know that you've done a lot of service for the community and that you've been generating ideas about improvements for a long time. So it's very nice of you to join us and share your experience with us this evening. We really appreciate it. This is the 32nd and 31st Street Block Association. The 32nd Street is known as Tilder, so between Tilden and Snyder. And we are interested in hearing your vision for the neighborhood and also sharing some of our priorities with you. So the first thing we'd like to do is, we just have a few minutes, but we'd like to hear your vision for the neighborhood. And if you could tell us briefly about your background and then how you're going to incorporate our priorities, how you will reach out and connect with us.
Okay, yes, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, and it's just a good opportunity to explain my vision and what I bring to the position. When I left college, the first position I had was as a teacher, high school mathematics teacher, a licensed mathematics teacher, and I taught at Erasmus Hall High School, and I got a sense of the educational issues there. I also taught at a private school, and I was able to compare the two. And I think when I began teaching, I had really romantic views about having a 90% passing rate. And then I didn't, and then I discovered that there were other reasons why the students did not do so well. And of course, that drove me to study economics. So I went to what I think is one of the better schools to study economics, which is the New School for Social Research. And there I really began by studying the classics and comparing it to what I had learned at Pace University. So I got a sense of the economic issues, the socioeconomic issues that would prevent students from doing well. And even once I had a grasp of that, it seems as if that was not enough, because there were other when the market failed, as we say in economics, when we have market failure, the state is justified to pass laws to correct the inefficiencies in the market. So, in other words, if something's not working right, we pass a law. So, which drove me to law school, and I went to Albany Law School, and I passed the bar, and I understood the law. I understood how law, economics, and education work together to produce students that could be productive members of society. So I think now in the community, we have economic issues, which is the housing issue, the housing market, and the prices are rising, and because the inhabitants, the residents are not able to keep up with the high prices, they're homeless. Or you have a mortgage problem, a foreclosure problem, I should say, in the 11236 and 11234, which is under part one of the sections of the 45th Council District. And also you have the legal issues. You do have the legal problems with the police violence, and how do we address it? And we have a problem with our judiciary. It clearly doesn't work. I mean, black people make up, let's say, almost 60% of the prison population in the United States. And to me, that's a testament that the legal system isn't working well. So, I mean, I had to education, economics, and law just to understand the issues, and therefore to be able to present options. I mean, I even, in terms of the legal question, I studied the European models of how their legal system operate, and the Caribbean, and I saw good things in those systems that we could perhaps adopt here. So my vision is to address the homelessness crisis by adopting methods to solve the homeless situation in the long term. And where would I get my models from? Well, in Europe, in Holland, they have a very effective way of transforming someone who's homeless to someone who is a productive member of society. And I'm sure the Dutch has an embassy here in New York because of the UN. So that's where I would probably get a model to address that problem in terms of the foreclosure crisis. We have individuals who were victim of improper lending in the past, and besides, we live in a society, the United States, where there is discrimination, employment discrimination. I mean, you do find that certain ethnic groups are relegated to certain classes of employment, which is a very low income, and therefore they're not as well placed to pay the mortgage.
So let me just try to focus a little bit. So if there were, I understand homelessness would be one of your priorities, and trying to bring other systems into play, learning from international examples. So let's take one example specifically with homelessness. How would you specifically try to implement a European model here to solve our homeless crisis in this neighborhood?
Well, in general, when we address the homeless situation here, we just tend to give them housing, and we don't think about preparing them to be productive with skills and even placement. In Holland, they actually allocate certain positions within the government where homeless people, once trained, can be placed into jobs that are well-paying. Because the problem is not just the housing, but when the rents rise, to be able to keep up with the rent.
So let me ask you this. So what you're talking about is really a kind of new vision, which is exciting, but would require a pretty complete reorganization of the way that we handle that issue, and would require interactions with departments all across the city and even the state, probably. Tell us how you would be able to cooperate and form coalitions to create that kind of massive change to address this problem.
Yeah, and in fact, I think the greatest thing, or the most important thing that I offer is leadership. I think that because I have a comprehensive understanding of the issues and the problem, of all the candidates, I'm the only one that has a clear understanding of the educational system, the economics of the issues, and also the legal aspects. So problems, to solve problems, they really involve all those issues.
But do you have relationships with other city council members? Do you have relationships with people at the state level, in the assembly, in the Senate? What are the skills that you have that would enable you to form the coalitions to really bring about that kind of massive change?
I do have relationships with a number of elected officials, but I think from speaking to them, and they're very good people in general, is they really looking for leadership on the issues, and someone who's able to give them the answers in a clear way that would make sense. So people want to solve the problems that we have, but they lack the comprehension. So I think I would be offering leadership, because no one enjoys entering the subways in the mornings and having to skip to the third car because there are people sleeping there. I assure you, no one enjoys that. But they're saying, well, how are we going to solve it? What do? We don't have a model, a map. So that's where I come in. I've taken the problem seriously, and I would be willing to put everything on the line and provide leadership.
Okay, those are really interesting ideas, and thank you for bringing those to the table. So we're going to move on to a couple other issues. We're going to try to just move a little bit more rapidly. Zoning is something that we're very concerned about. We all know that there have been zoning changes proposed in this neighborhood. What is your understanding of the zoning changes that we're facing? Let's just start there, and let's just do 1 minute on that. Your understanding of the zoning issues that we're facing.
I was once the chair of the land use committee for Board 17, so I have a general, pretty good knowledge of the zoning issues. I was in the process of rezoning the district in 2012, and I had an expert from Pratt Institute who they led to me to help me to visit every block in the district and to speak to people and to find out what were their inclinations. And we had prepared something that all the relevant city council members had signed on to. And the next stage was to present it to the city planning to do the study before it was almost guaranteed to pass, because every single city council person that concerned had signed on. Well, I was mysteriously removed as the chair of the land use. And the new person that they put did nothing for a whole year. So now, and land use.
So let me just get in here. So this is some kind of political machination? Is that what you're saying? People behind the scenes, real estate developers?
Well, I don't know, but I found it very strange that I was doing something. I'd achieved something that they'd been trying to do for years.
But so this is what I'm getting at. These types of major change take a lot of coalition building and dealing with machinations of people who are not interested in those changes. How are you going to make sure that that doesn't happen to you again if you're the city council person, that people with vested interests aren't going to move against you and, and make sure that the change that you have so heroically put together doesn't happen? What can you do?
Well, certainly as in that position as chair of the land use, I was subject to the people who appointed me. It's different for me in city council where you are the people's representative. So I was always subject to the people who can influence our city council members. Again, it concerned about 5 different ones. So therefore, it comes from the top.
You think you could outmaneuver them this time if you were on city council?
I was not the city council person. I think that I would be able to provide leadership. I mean, in life there are no guarantees, but I think if you have someone who's willing to fight for something, I think it's very likely to happen. I'm not sure that we had any particular city council person at the time who was really committed to rezoning the district so we can preserve the character of certain neighborhoods and allowing development in certain areas that the community agreed would be permissible.
Are you a fighter? Do you consider yourself a fighter?
Yes, I do.
So is your understanding that this neighborhood should welcome upzoning or try to fight against upzoning? What is your position on it?
I think there are certain neighborhoods that can be preserved because they're all one-family homes or all Victorian homes. But there are other areas, other strips where we wouldn't mind having development, because certainly we have a housing problem, and we in general should try to increase the supply of housing, especially affordable housing. So I think most people are reasonable to that. It's just that if they purchased their home in a certain neighborhood because of the way it was, they wouldn't like the neighborhood to remain that way.
And what about trying to make sure that people stay in their homes? People who've been in this community for years.
Well, certainly we have to work on the income side. And most people who've been forced to leave can't really afford the rent. I mean, the rent have risen, and it's only reasonable that landlords would want to get as much as they can for their apartments. So we really need to do more to help the people who are unable to keep up with the rent to have more income. We might have to...
Subsidies?
Well, not exactly. I'm looking at a long-term picture. We need to work to improve the skills of the schools, the efficiency and the effectiveness of the schools. So we look at a long-term plan of generating students who can have the credentials that's required to get into, let's say, Stuyvesant, as we talked about before. In Stuyvesant, of the 900 positions that were available, only 7 were for Black students. So it was less than 1% out of 900. So I'm a former teacher in the public schools, and clearly to me, it means that we need to do other things to make it more, produce students that can reasonably be offered positions in these schools, because these schools are where the cutting edge changes in technology are happening. And if you're not there, you don't stand the chance of being in the profession or being in the occupation that would give you the kind of income that you need to afford to pay your rent and your mortgage. So,
absolutely, I agree with you, and I'm really glad to hear you mention the specialized schools and making sure that our students here are getting trained for that test and prepared for it ahead of time. But it won't. That won't help the people who are in their homes now, who are losing them. So I'm just trying to get a sense of your specific strategy to deal with the zoning issues. It sounds like you're open to some development in the correct areas, right? And a strategy for helping to keep people in their homes.
Correct.
Is subsidies?
Well, in terms of, you mean, you're speaking of tenants?
I'm speaking of tenants and owners. We had a member of our block association who was a long-time member and lost his home to foreclosure, and I think we were all really, really saddened by that. It was really, really sad.
Well, I think that I would seek to become a member of the finance committee, and I would seek to allocate a pool of money that would give these homeowners who are in foreclosure or crisis more time to maybe reorganize themselves financially, or number two, to allow them more time that if they wish to sell their homes in a better situation that they can. So I would be willing to allocate a pool of money for that purpose.
Okay, we're just going to ask you one more question and then we need to wrap. So greening is incredibly important to our block association. We've received awards for greening the neighborhood, and we want to know what you would do specifically to help us continue to green the entire district.
Well, certainly it's wonderful to walk down a block where there are greeneries and there are flowers and it's pretty and it's beautiful. I mean, that adds to the quality of the life in the neighborhood and the block, adds to the value of the property. It's just a nice place to live. So I'm sure all the candidates would support doing whatever they can.
But specifically, what would you do to help us?
Well, I think that I would allocate monies in whatever way I can, so that you can buy the seeds and the other things that you would need to beautify it. There are block associations that really has a keen interest in improving the quality of the neighborhood that we all live in.
I think something that we would like would be maybe connecting to other block associations so that we could really kind of show them what we're doing as a template. I don't think we have the number of people to go out and plant every block, but we do want to try to. We have some really great people on our team who know how to compost and plant, and could you connect our block association with other block associations? Could you be a leader in that regard?
Well, certainly. At Community Board 17, we have a block association committee. And I think that I don't think there's anyone as passionate about well, there's a beautification committee also, but I don't think there's anyone as passionate about it. I've been on the block association committee, and I've met anyone as passionate about as the block association that you were from. So I mean, as a city council person, I have appointed powers to appoint people to the committee board, and certainly I would be inclined to appoint someone who's really passionate about improving the quality of life in the block and being a model, because we don't really have on the block association committee someone that's really passionate about block association and is willing to share ideas and be a leader. And this is wonderful.
Super. Okay, that's a lovely suggestion. So we'll just do one quick ask. Do we have any questions from the audience?
I got a question. Not a question. Just sitting here listening to this, and I came from a big organization that I was in charge of the whole district, okay? And
specifically, you mean the post?
Yeah.
The post office.
Yeah. So I dealt with Staten Island, Brooklyn, Long Island City, JFK, the airport, such and such and such and such. So if you have all these block associations that are doing things, how can they form a block association board where all the block associations come together, and then they can use their resources as one to negotiate to get low prices and all these other things that they can get from these companies? Because when the block associations are separated, you have Tilder Block Association and the 31st. Each one is like going up against these organizations as one small little unit. And the only way you're going to get lower prices and things done is if you actually have a large organization that brings all the small organizations together to negotiate, resources. And I think, what can you do about something like that? Because that, to me, that would be the biggest advantage, because if you have 31st Street Block Association, you have 32nd Street Block Association, and they all want the same thing. Everybody wants to get trees, everybody wants to get guards. But the thing is, you give one little block association something, but the other guy, he has to fight to get something done. the other one has to fight to get something done. So why can't you start something down? Either Eric can start it or somebody can start it where you have a block association board where you have the top block associations that come together. There's 12 or 13 people on a panel. And then what they do is they can actually talk to all these companies. They can talk to Chase. They can talk to XYZ company to get something done so they can get resources. And I guarantee you that when you have 13 people on a board who represent the major block associations that get together, they can negotiate, they'll get lower prices. So how can you facilitate that as far as going into the, as far as going to for the community board or the position or creating something where, that would be something that we could actually do to get more things done.
Well, I agree with you. We have a block association committee at Tilder E 17, which is open to all community block association within the community. But I'm in favor of having a separate, maybe a nonprofit, because there's nothing to stop someone from forming a nonprofit with that idea and encouraging block association members to join this group. There's always politics in things linked with the Community Board 17. And sometimes it's good politics, sometimes it's bad politics, but sometimes it can impede the direction of an organization. Clear examples, when I was removed as chair of the Land Use Committee. Now, if it was a separate NGO, you would be able to go forward without being derailed so easily. So even though we have at Community Board 17, of which I'm still a member, we have a block association committee, and the purpose is just that, what you described, is to work together to improve the effectiveness and lower the unit cost of items that the block associations may need. However, someone can always derail you. However, if you form a separate 501c3, which if I'm elected and when I'm elected, I would certainly provide the technical assistance that you would need. Then you are separate from the politics. You have your board of directors, you've elected your officers, and you can function independently.
And you would try to get us funding and support for that organization?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, it's my interest. I can brag about how I help you to get started, and look how beautiful the place is. It's going to help me get reelected, and maybe to a big position.
Super. Okay. And we were asking all the candidates, did you get any endorsements or financing from real estate developers?
No, I did not, and I did not request any.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, Victor.
Right. Thank you.